If you've ever felt like the D&D Ranger was underpowered or just missing something, the Daggerheart Ranger might just be what you're looking for. Today we're going over the final one of the pre-made characters that come with Daggerheart's free Quickstart Adventure, Sablewood Messengers. Let's get into it. So I've got the cards here for the Katari Wildborne Ranger, and his name is Varian Soto, and he is the ranger for this adventure. I did run this adventure, and one of my players did choose to play this character, and they really enjoyed it. Shout out to Brian if you're out there. So first, let's go over what makes this ranger unique. First of all, it is the Katari ancestry from Daggerheart. It's got some really cool artwork on the card there. That is the cat people. Now, I know D&D has tabaxis and they have leonins, but you could, in Daggerheart, you could flavor this any way you want, and you could maybe make it more like a lion or like a lynx or a panther or a house cat. Whatever you want. So being a Katari says they are feline humanoids with retractable claws, vertically slit pupils, and high triangular ears. Now they do get a couple features from this ancestry. They get feline instincts, which states when you make an agility roll, you can spend 2 hope to re-roll your hope die. It doesn't say your hope and fear dice. It's literally just your hope die. I think that's really cool because in this case, you can choose to make that decision based on the individual dice. If your fear die was kind of mid-range or even low, but yet your hope die was even lower, that's not bad. Just spend 2 hope to re-roll the hope, so hopefully it gets higher. I mean, you wouldn't want to do this if your fear die is already really high, but at least you kind of know ahead of time if it would be potentially worth it or not. I like that. You also have retracting claws. So it says to make an agility roll to scratch a target within melee. On a success, they become temporarily vulnerable. Now, you may remember that vulnerable means everybody else in the party gets advantage attacking that foe. So that means they're going to be including an extra D6 with their 2 12-sided hope and fear dice and adding that into the total for that. That's great. So just popping over for a second to the quick start guide with the information it gives you about Varian Soto. It does tell you here, remember that there's a question for each character, which kind of helps with the backstory and making the story feel a little more personalized. The question for Varian Soto is, what hybrid animal have you been hunting for years that you're hoping to see while you're in the Sablewood? That's really cool because, you know, rangers are hunters, right? They like to go out and hunt beasts and things, and there could be something that this ranger has been dying to see, and it gives the DM a chance to like tie that into the story and insert it in there to make it a little more personal. That's great. And then if we also go down to the different character connections. Now, character connections are connections you make with the other player characters at the table, which also help build relationships so that there's more role-playing opportunities. There are 3 connections in here. I want to be more like you. I'm worried you're better than me. And we tell each other everything. Now, when Brian used this character, he used I'm worried you're better than me, and we tell each other everything. And it really allowed for some really cool role-playing moments with the other characters at the table. The I'm worried you're better than me actually had him and another character start a competition of who had killed more foes, kind of like, wasn't that Gimli and Legolas did in Lord of the Rings, where they were keeping count on how many people they killed or how many creatures they killed, and it was really funny. So let's jump back in here and let's talk about how this ranger is Wildborne. So we've got the Wildborne community card here, and that states being a part of the Wildborne community means you lived deep in the forest. That works pretty well for a ranger, I think. And it gives you this ability called Lightfoot. That says your movement is naturally silent. You have advantage on rolls to move without being heard. That can be pretty handy, I think, in this adventure. That's neat. So that is the Wildborne Katari combo. Very cool. All right, so now before we jump into the Ranger subclass and then the other abilities that come with this pre-generated character, let's check out a few other things on this character sheet. Now, the Ranger has access to both the Bone and the Sage domains in Daggerheart. And this character actually starts with a short bow as their weapon, and it uses the Agility trait, which already has the modifiers plugged in. I have mentioned before, but if you haven't watched the other videos in this series, Daggerheart doesn't have stats that are like high numbers that then refer to a table to get a modifier. They just give everybody the same modifiers. So everybody has a -1, 2 zeros, 2 +1s, and a +2. So everybody has those 6 modifiers to put in whatever abilities they'd like, but for these pre-generated characters, they put them where they most make sense for the story. This gives new players like a much easier time jumping right in and playing and not feeling overwhelmed with some of their choices. So they put their +2 for this Ranger in Agility. So that makes perfect sense. And it says that Agility is used for things like sprinting, leaping, doing maneuvers, and things like that. So that's going to make a lot of sense with a short bow. So that is an Agility-based weapon. So they'll roll with Agility when they attack. And it's used up to far range. Now, I want to say I did not double check the rules, and I'm not going to take the time to do that right now, but if somebody could do that and just drop it in the comments. I believe, though, if you're still trying to use a ranged weapon in melee, it probably has disadvantage. Somebody check that for me. So that means at very close, close, and far, you're going to roll your Agility roll with your Hope and Fear dice as normal. And remember, anytime you have disadvantage on a roll, if for some unknown reason this Ranger tries to use his short bow at melee distance, they're going to include an extra d6 to subtract from the total. It works very different than D&D does. That short bow does 1d6 plus 3 physical damage. That's cool. Now, this character, which was named Varian, I forgot his name there for a second, Varian Soto, also comes with some leather armor on these pre-made characters. Leather armor has base thresholds of 6 and 13 for their damage threshold. So then remember, you add in your level. So that makes, for the game, the thresholds become 7 and 14. So minor damage is under 7. Major damage is from 7 to 13. And 14 and up would be severe damage for this character. All right. They also start with an evasion of 13. Now, it states right on the character sheet that Rangers in Daggerheart start with an evasion of 12. So there must be something else in here that's giving him a bonus to his evasion, and we will get to that. So all the characters also have a specialized hope feature. I believe they all cost 3 hope, and for the Ranger, it is called Hold Them Off. And this is a good one. Check this out. Spend 3 hope when you succeed on an attack with a weapon to use that same roll against 2 additional adversaries within the same range as the attack. Oh my gosh, that's really cool. So you could be hitting 3 characters, 3 foes at once in a single turn. That's going to make for some great roleplay opportunities. I can just imagine describing that, because as a DM, if my player pulled this off, I'm going to ask them, what did your Ranger do to get this? Like, what does it look like when your Ranger goes to attack 1 foe, but manages to get 3 foes in the same range? That's really neat. So that's a good one, I think, for 3 hope. Next, let's look at the experiences that come with this Ranger. He has Deadly Aim for +2 and Nature's Friend for +2. Perfect for a Ranger. If you're not sure what experiences are, it's basically a not super specific, but not too terribly vague title for something that happened to them in their past that you can use as opportunities to tie into what's going on right now. So this Ranger perhaps had an experience in the past where he learned how to take deadly aim that he can apply now for a bonus. So experiences do cost 1 hope. As long as you've got hope to spend, you can spend as much hope as you want on a turn. So you can spend a hope to add +2 to something you're rolling with deadly aim sounds perfect for attacks. That is a really neat way to tie aiming into these bow attacks, right? You can say, you know, I'm going to spend another hope to take deadly aim, and now they get +2 to their rolls, so they're more likely to hit. The other one also makes such good sense for a ranger, Nature's Friend, because they're doing a lot of rolls that perhaps are going to happen out in nature, being a ranger and things. I really like those. So let's jump in now actually to the subclass that has been built into this ranger, and it is called the Wayfinder. Okay, just like the other videos, I have all 3 subclass cards here if you chose to keep playing this ranger after the quick start and you level them up into the other levels of this subclass. So check this out. They start with the foundation card for Wayfinder. It lets you know that their spell casting trait is agility. Great, because their +2 is in their agility. The first thing they get is called Ruthless Predator, and it states when you make a damage roll, you can mark a stress to get a +1 bonus to your proficiency. And your proficiency gets added into your rolls. It's already calculated in your sheet, so that's going to give you extra proficiency, so that's great. It says, additionally, when you deal severe damage, they must mark a stress. That makes so much sense, right? If someone's getting a severe wound or taking severe damage, that would probably stress them out, right? And stress is often the currency that adversaries use to do things against the players. So it's really going to wear them down sooner. If their stress bar gets full, now they have to take hit point damage. If their stress bar gets full, they can't use some of their special abilities. I really like this. The other one they get is called Path Forward, and that states when you're traveling to a place you've previously visited or you carry an object that has been at the location before, you can identify the shortest, most direct path to your destination. That's really neat. Without giving anything away, there is an instance, I think, where this could come into play in this quick start adventure. So that is the foundation card for a Wayfinder Ranger. Very interesting the way Daggerheart is doing rangers here, right? Folks, if you're finding this helpful, could you go ahead and click the thumbs up button, give us a like. It's going to help push the video out to more people so more people can find this. Thanks so much. Okay, so let's get on to the specialization card. Remember, these are only available if you keep playing this character past this quick start adventure and you choose to level them up. And obviously, if you're playing a Wayfinder Ranger in another campaign, obviously these are available too, but this is why I'm talking about them when we're specifically talking about this pre-made character. So the specialization level talks about Elusive Predator is the ability. And it says when your focus makes an attack against you, you gain a +2 to your invasion against the attack. Now, I understand you may be wondering what this focus is. What is this focus you're referring to? And perhaps I should have gone over the focus part first, but I didn't, so I will briefly explain it. Basically, focus in Daggerheart's Ranger is your hunter's mark. It's just reflavored, but it's better. Wait until I tell you about how this focus works, okay? So it's basically saying when you've chosen a foe to make your focus, aka they have hunter's mark on them, if they make an attack against you, you get +2 to your evasion. Now, this character already has a 13 on their evasion, so that would bump it up to 15. That means the DM would need to roll a 15 or higher on a 20-sided die to hit this ranger. That's pretty cool. That's very good. I like that. All right, if you level that character up even more and you take the Mastery Wayfinder card, you get an ability called Apex Predator. It says before you make an attack roll against your focus, you can spend a hope, and then if you succeed on that attack, you remove a fear from the GM's fear pool. This is the first time I've seen any kind of ability like this where you actually get to take fear away from the GM. That's really neat. I really like that. I mean, it does cost a hope, but that makes sense, and that's fine because you're constantly spending hope and generating new hope, more hope points throughout the game, so you want to keep spending it. But that's really cool. And that only applies when you're attacking the foe that you've put that focus on. Those are some really neat abilities. But remember, you'll just start with the foundation card, with the Ruthless Predator, and Path Forward. Okay, so next, let's talk about this focus. What is this? It's called Ranger's Focus in Daggerheart. And like I said, it's essentially Hunter's Mark. It kind of replacing Hunter's Mark, but it's better. In fact, I'll tell you, I actually have my D&D books here. I've got my 2014 and I got my 2024. And I just want to go over real quick the D&D Hunter's Mark, okay? So in the 2014 book, Hunter's Mark, right, it's a first level spell. So it's up to you to actually take that spell for your ranger. You don't have to have it, but it's pretty good. Most people that play rangers, I think, really like it and end up taking it as a possibility, all right? It is a bonus action. So you have to have a bonus action available to use. It has a range of 90 feet. It has verbal components, and it's concentration up to an hour. Now, an hour is a ridiculous long time, but you may remember with concentration that if you take any damage, you're going to have to make a roll to see if you can maintain the concentration on that spell, and if you fail it, the spell drops, and then you'd have to use another slot to cast it again. So basically under the 2014 rules, it's doing an extra d6 damage, okay? And then it gives you advantage on perception or survival checks to find whoever you have Hunter's marked. You can use a bonus action to move it to somebody else if that creature drops to 0 hit points. And you can upcast it to make it last 8 hours and upcast it even more to make it last 12 hours. So when the 2024 Hunter's Mark came out, they changed it to force damage, okay? It's essentially still the same. It's an extra d6 damage, but before it was whatever type was tied to the weapon. Now it's 1d6 force damage. You still get advantage on the wisdom, on the perception or survival checks to find it. You can still move it to somebody else as a bonus action if they drop to 0 hit points, and you can still upcast it to make it last 8 hours or upcast it even higher to make it last 24 hours. But still concentration and a bonus action. All right. So that's how Hunter's Mark worked. So it's giving you advantage to find them. Makes sense? And it's giving you extra damage. Now, this is the Daggerheart version, right? Ranger's Focus. Now, you do have to spend a hope, but you had to use a spell slot in D&D, right? Now, spell slots, those were hard to get back in D&D, right? Once you've spent them. This is just spend a hope. You're constantly spending hope, getting more hope back. Spending hope, getting more hope back. So honestly, unless you run out of hope, is the only time you're not going to be able to do this. And it doesn't require any like resting to get slots back or anything. You could literally roll hope on your next roll and get some more hope back. Okay, so you spend 1 hope to make an attack against a target. On a success, deal the normal attack damage and temporarily make them your focus. Okay, so the hit has to succeed first. Over here in D&D, because this was a spell, it just happened as long as you got the spell off. They were already your focus beforehand, and it lasted for an hour. This is only if you hit do they become your focus, and it's temporary. Now, in Daggerheart, anything that is defined as temporary, the DM can spend a fear to end the condition, which honestly I just think is really cool. As a DM, it's really exciting to have different things that you can spend your fear on, so I think that's really neat. So they can become your focus. Until the feature ends or you make a different creature your focus, you get the following benefits. You know precisely what direction they are in, okay? Now, that's not making a roll to see if you know where they are. It's, you know precisely what direction that is. And the one thing I like about Daggerheart is some of these things are so vague that's like, well, they didn't say if that included if they were invisible. Okay, so as a DM at the table, maybe say, hey, as written, maybe you do know what direction they're in as they're invisible because you are so focused on them that you see their footprints over there. You hear a rustling over there. Like, there's always ways to tie this into the story. Doesn't say as long as they're visible, you know. So anyway, you know precisely what direction they're in, or if they're hiding, right? That would work too if they're hiding. Second, when you deal damage to them, they must mark a stress. I love that. Anytime they're taking damage from you, they also have to mark a stress box. Remember, you fill that stress box up and now they're taking additional hit points. You fill that stress box bar up and now they can't use some of their special features. This is great. Okay, the last one. When you fail an attack against them, you can end your focus to re-roll your duality dice. I love this one the best. I think this is so cool. So if your attack wasn't even successful, you can choose. You have a choice here. You can either not use this and keep them your focus, but if you want to choose to end your have them be your focus their focus, that you're focused on them, you get to re-roll both dice. So you get a second chance at trying to hit them. I think that's so cool. I love that. Adventurers, if you're joining me here for the first time, I'm Kristen and this is Kristen's Epic Adventures. Here we go over all things tabletop role-playing, whether it's rules breakdowns, tips, tricks, unboxings, and reviews. If that's right up your alley, hit the subscribe button down below and that notification bell so you know when the new videos are out. Before I move on to the Rangers loadout cards, I just want to take a second to bring your attention to my awesome t-shirt here that I got from Wizardly Tees. I've partnered up with them to get you guys a discount code. If you are shopping on wizardlytees.com and you use the code EPIC, EPIC, at checkout, you'll get 20% off your order. Go check them out. They've got some really cool TTRPG t-shirts over there. Now let's talk about these two cards that they've got in their loadout. The Ranger uses both the Bone and the Sage domains. Now the Bone one, I believe, is this one with the two crossed knives over here, and it's a gray colored card, and this ability is called Untouchable. It says gain a bonus to your evasion equal to half your agility. Remember I said that the Ranger says that their evasion starts at 12 but something bumped it up to 13? That's this right here, Untouchable. Now because this is actually linked to your agility modifier, and here, that's where they put the +2, so half of that is 1. If you choose to keep playing this character and you level them up some more and you choose to increase one of these scores, if your agility score ever goes up, now your evasion is going to go up, which makes sense. That's really awesome. I like that a lot. The other card that this Ranger has is from the Sage domain, and it is a spell. It is a level 1 spell card, and it is called Vicious Entangle. Now, I've always stated that I love the artwork on these cards. This one has a little frog, or it's probably a big frog. It's probably a ribbit foe being entangled in these vines that's holding them down. Now, this is how Vicious Entangle reads. Make a spellcast roll, which for the Ranger is based on their agility, against a target within far range, so that can be used quite a distance. On a success, roots and vines reach out from the ground, dealing 1d8 + 1 physical damage and temporarily restraining the target. Restraining in Daggerheart means you can't move, no movement, unless you break free from whatever's restraining you. Now also, note that it said temporarily, and again, the DM can spend a fear point to end a temporary condition, but you're going to get them to burn through that fear. All right, it says additionally, on a success, you can spend a hope to temporarily restrain another adversary that's within very close range of that target. That makes so much sense. That's so cool. So it's like the area of the vines coming out gets bigger and gets someone else that's in very close range to the original target. That is going to be very handy for restraining and holding some foes in place. Now, and it also does do physical damage when it first comes out and restrains them. Very cool. So those are the two cards that this Ranger gets in their loadout. Now, I want to know what you guys think. How do you think this Ranger compares to the D&D Ranger? The D&D Ranger gets a lot of hate, and I do know people that play them quite often and actually really like them, and some would say, well, it depends on what you bring to it. You know, there's ways to make it more fun, but it just seems to be, a lot of people think it's very underpowered, not so much fun, and a lot of people are really loving the Daggerheart Ranger. I see some really great opportunities here. I absolutely love the way Ranger's focus worked, that their version of Hunter's Mark, right? It's not adding any more damage, which kind of makes sense. If you're focused on something or you've marked somebody as your focus or your target, I don't know if that would necessarily do more damage, right? Wouldn't it make them easier to hit? And it does, because you know precisely what direction they're in. And you do make them deal stress. You make them mark stress when you do damage to them. And if you failed, you can end their focus to roll again. So it's almost like you are so focused that you get a second chance at hitting them, but it's going to take the rest of the focus away, which makes sense a lot. I like that. I like it a lot. When Brian played this Ranger, I believe he enjoyed it. Brian usually watches these videos, so Brian, if you're out there, what did you think of playing this Katari Wildborne Ranger when we played Sablewood Messengers? Did you enjoy it? I want your honest opinion. Do you like D&D Rangers or do you like Daggerheart Rangers? I'm dying to know. I've now gone over all 5 of the pre-made characters for Sablewood Messengers, the free quick start adventure from Daggerheart that you can download online. They're going to be all together in the Daggerheart playlist if you want to go watch some of the other ones that you missed. Now you're going to want to watch one of the videos on the next screen. Go ahead and click one of those and I'll meet you there.